Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, I am doing some preparations for shooting 1 mile with a 16-inch barrel 308. I already did a previous video on some of the load development that I'm working on. I've picked two different bullets, two different grain weights, and though I am using the same brass and the same powder and the same primers, I've picked the 180 grain Warner Tool Company flatline bullets, and then I've picked the 208 grain ELD match bullets from Hornady. With them, I'm using Hodgins BLC2 powder. It seems to be working pretty good for me, especially since I can run near a 100% case load, so near a compressed load, and then so that I get really consistent extreme spreads. My extreme spreads are like 30 feet per second or less typically, so that's really good there. One interesting thing that I noted in my load development is that when I shot the 208 grain ELDMs, I got right at 2,400 feet per second average on those, and at 100 yards, with the way my scope and stuff is set up, it shoots with those rounds. I'm shooting 4.9 inches high, or 4.8 inches high at 100 yards, and then without doing any scope adjustment or anything, shooting the 180 grain flat lines, I ended up getting, it was 4.9 inches on the 208s, and then with the 180 grain flat lines, I got about 160 feet per second more velocity with those, so running about 2560, and they were actually hitting almost a little over 3/4 of an inch higher at 100 yards than the 208s. That was kind of unexpected. I didn't really expect them to shoot that much higher, even though they are lighter and they are going a little faster. But I don't know, that's the whole thing that Warner Tool Company talks about their flatline bullets, is that they shoot flatter, faster, and further. And so maybe they're not full of crap. I don't know. So with the 180 grain though, running 160 feet per second faster, hitting at 5.8 inches high or 5.7 inches high at 100 yards, which is 0.8 inches higher than the 208s. And the difference in BC and velocity is not all that much. The 208 grain Hornadys have an advertised G1 of 0.690, and the 180 grain flat lines have a little bit higher ballistic coefficient advertised at 0.712. So, that is significant, but not when you're really shooting only 100 yards. That's not a huge difference in BC. It's not going to make that big of a change at 100 yards. Now, the velocity will probably make a little bit of a change, but again, I was not expecting 3/4 of an inch difference in impact shift with the 180s hitting 3/4 inches or 0.8 inches higher than the 208s. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to go over that a little bit. I'm going to work on today building my drop charts for each of those bullets, each of those projectiles, running the speeds that they're running, and then that way I'll have a drop chart for each one. Of course, it's just going to be a rough drop chart. It's not going to reflect reality. It's going to be a calculated drop chart. So when we actually get out to the pipeline and set up our 1 mile target, we probably will see that, however much it says that the drop chart says to dial to get to a mile is probably not going to be exactly what we experience out in the field. So you can't just do some testing, some velocity testing at 100 yards and get your gun zeroed and then build a drop chart and expect it to be 100% accurate at every distance. I mean, it's going to be pretty close, probably out to about 500 yards for the most part. But once you get past that, environmentals change, and that's why you have to test at longer distances. And then you need to record your findings out there when you're shooting a mile or whatever it is, 1,000 yards. Record your actual drop, how many mils or minutes of angle it takes to get there, and then come back and adjust your drop chart using that information so that you can make it more accurate the next time you go out. And that's what we do. So I'm going to get a rough idea, using calculations of how much elevation it's going to take to get to a mile. But I would guarantee that it's not going to be perfect. I'm not going to hit this target with the first round. It's probably either going to hit a little high or a little low. More often than not, it ends up hitting low, and I have to add a little more elevation to get it to that distance. But that's what the science is all about when it comes to long range shooting. What we are basically doing is building personalized drop charts for the specific bullet and powder and everything that I am using, and the specific rifle and setup that I'm using. And then, like, if I take that ammunition and put it in a different rifle, probably going to have a different drop chart, So, especially if the rifle's got a different length barrel. So everything has to be specific to your setup if you want to shoot long range. And every time you go out and shoot long range, you need to record all the environmentals that are going on that day. It would be good to record the velocity every time you go out, especially if you're shooting in different temperature ranges, and then record the elevation required to hit the target. And that way, when you go back and you compare it to the drop chart that you've built, you can make some minor adjustments, make your drop chart more accurate. And then, so, like, if you keep doing that over and over and over again, keep making those adjustments every time you go out, and eventually your drop chart will be pretty dang accurate. It's gonna, when it tells you need to dial a certain amount on your elevation turret to get to a certain distance, you should be able to dial that amount and then be on target, without having to make any additional corrections after the first shot or so. But these rounds have not been tested in my rifle at any sort of range other than 100 yards, so I'm going to build a calculated drop chart as the starting point, and then we're going to go out and shoot, and then we'll record the differences and everything, and then we'll come back and I'll do a video on how to make the changes to the drop chart to update it for future reference. So anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. My channel is monetized now. I have not added any ads to it right now, but there is the option to do a super thanks, I believe, where you can donate a little bit of money there, or I believe you can join the channel for like a little monthly, I think it's $5 a month, and just to support the channel if you want to. And so, like, either way, you can do the super thanks, and that's like a one-time deal. If you wanted to, I don't know, send $5 or something, or $10 or whatever, and then that's just a one-time deal. It's not a monthly deal. Or you can join the channel for a small monthly charge, and it will help out my efforts But that's up to you. I'm going to keep this channel as free as possible. Any sort of donations and stuff like that are totally optional. So keep that in mind. We'll see you next time in the next video.